Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today, Carol Andrews, a Democratic consultant, and Chip Saltsman on the Republican side, talking about how politics and campaigns are changing in 2020. Chip Saltsman, we talked about things going on in terms of how the candidate has to change. How do the campaigns have to change? Do you still do consulting work? I mean, canvassing kind of work?
Yeah.
Who's going to let you in your house when you're going door to door these days?
Well, they don't let me in the house, but even though that we're a bunch of political muckety-mucks sitting around a conference room table trying to figure out how to win campaigns, what we have figured out is there's some great new ways to do that. One, I don't know if you've been involved in a teletown hall, where a candidate for Congress or a member of Congress gets on, calls everybody in his district and asks them to join. Those have been extremely effective because obviously you can do that from your house. You've had lots of Zoom conference calls with CEOs and business types. I can tell you Congressman Kustoff from West Tennessee has spent literally 6, 7, 8 hours a day on the phone doing Zoom conference calls, doing teletown halls. And quite frankly, you can actually talk to many more constituents in a teletown hall, calling 80,000, 90,000 people in a night, get 10,000 people on a phone call, give them an update on the coronavirus, give them some options if they're feeling sick, what hospital they go to, what are the processes, if they're having trouble with paycheck protection, who to call, what to do. And it's I like to say, it's exercising different political muscles, and they're still as effective. We may not be going to the Republican dinner or the Democrat dinner on Friday night, but we can do a teletown hall and talk to 500, 600 people at the same time. So using different political skills, very important to have political consultants like Carol and I on your payroll every day to make sure you're guided in the right direction. But yeah, we're still plenty busy, and we're making sure our candidates get out there and talking to the voters and constituents.
Carol, as you go back more into the virtual area more and more, I understand how those work pretty well for the incumbents. They're used to having crowds. They can use their power or their office to be able to do those things and probably get a bigger crowd that way. How do the people that are the challengers be able to do that? And is it a resource issue? And just how do you make that work? And how do you make that be more pizzazz? I mean, being online is interesting, but without an audience or a crowd there, it kind of comes over dead sometimes, doesn't it?
I mean, it's just like it's different for us sitting in our respective places right now, not being able to interact or me to, poke Chip in the ribs or something. But it is different. I know James Mackler, who is running for the U.S. Senate here in Tennessee, did a Facebook Live broadcast last night, I think, with an epidemiologist from Vanderbilt, and to talk about COVID, and took questions and had huge participation on that. It's just organizing in a different way to let people know that, hey, these resources are out there for you. Chip, we may need to get into the telephone business and digital business right now, because those are the consultants that are probably making more bank than anybody this election cycle, and coming up with new ways to reach voters, because the face-to-face just isn't available to us right now.
Chip, in terms of the U.S. Senate race here in Tennessee, the GOP race is actually contested between Bill Hagerty, the former ambassador to Japan, and Dr. Manny Sethi. They both released their finances for the last quarter, and it looks like they're having to do a whole lot more self-financing. Is that sort of an outgrowth of what's going on with the virus? They just can't get out to raise the money the way they'd like to in a normal situation?
Yeah, Pat. I mean, I think what you're seeing is people that have the ability to self-fund are usually always in a good position. Not always the best, as Carol could probably say with Mayor Bloomberg's presidential campaign, but it always gives you a little bit of an advantage. In this environment, though, the other folks can't raise any money. There are no fundraisers right now at somebody's house or somebody's country club at $1,000 per person, or $100 a person, or $50 picnic. That is not existing. So if you're a campaign that depends on a fundraising apparatus outside the digital world, you are in trouble. And usually on the digital side, the raise money, presidential campaigns raise money on digital because they have a great audience. Senators have a great one because they're on TV every day talking about national issues. But when you get beyond those, even a congressman or a governor doesn't raise as much money online because of the issues and what people are seeing on TV every day. So if you're a candidate for U.S. Senate, and we'll talk about Manny Sethi, who has been a great candidate, has done a great job. He is now at that crossroads where he's got to start spending his own money because he's not raised enough to keep up with his pace of spending. Those decisions get exponentially harder as you get closer to August. But they both had put in a big substantial amount of money. I think Manny's put in about $2 million. Bill Hagerty's put in $2.5 million. Lots of options out there, but I think you have to give the edge down the home stretch to Bill Hagerty, as he can self-finance even more. And certainly the President Trump's endorsement helps. But Manny's probably got enough money to compete, but he needs the economy to open and political fundraising to get back in the game so he can compete down the stretch.
Carol, in terms of fundraising, it seems to me that you've also got a situation where you can't have the candidate anymore and people pay a lot of money to get their picture taken with him. But we've also seen a trend in the last campaign cycle, particularly in 2016, where Bernie Sanders raised a lot of small donor money through the internet. Is that being affected by the virus at all? Is that drying up because people are worried because they've lost their jobs, or their parents have lost their jobs, their spouses lost their jobs? Is that impacting the small donor in political campaigns?
Absolutely. People are scared right now. They have some money in the bank. They're hanging on to it. They've taken big hits in the stock market lately if they were investors. And people have lost jobs. I mean, I just heard 22 million people applying for unemployment just this week. So, people are hanging on to every dollar they have, and it's going to be increasingly tougher for candidates to raise money.
Chip, on the state level and maybe on the national level, we've also seen the rise in the last couple of cycles of the super PAC, particularly the individually sort of funded super PAC. Are they going to become even more important on the presidential level and on these Senate races? They can come in and make a big impact because the money may not be any place else other than out of the candidate's wallet.
Absolutely. You bet. The super PACs are going to play an exponential role in especially the Senate races around the country. As keeping control of the Senate is going to be a high priority for the Senate. Taking control of the Senate is going to be a high priority for the Democrats and Carol. And if you can get somebody to come in and write a $5 million check, a $250,000 check, that replaces a lot of $25 checks. Yeah. But campaigns really do need both. They need the energy level of somebody that's willing to give you $10, and they need the resources of somebody to give you $1 million. And when you take one of those pieces of the puzzle out, the puzzle's not complete, and it makes it harder to finish.
Republican political consultant Chip Saltsman and Democratic consultant Carol Andrews are our guests. We're talking about the changes in politics and campaigns for 2020. Back to continue our conversation on the other side of this break.